And this is something that relates to the matric syllabus, and we thought it would be very interesting to share some new technology ideas with everybody around the country. So thank you very much for taking the time to join us this afternoon. Please can I ask that you make sure that your microphones are turned off and that your camera is also off. Grab a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and just sit back and relax and enjoy. So today, before we start, I would just like to introduce our presenter today. Jandré is with us from Paxis. He has been soaring through the skies as he was a first commercial pilot, but his career has been anything but ordinary. He began as a commercial pilot, mastering the art of flying before shifting his expertise to drones. He first started with underwater drone technology, and he was sharing some very interesting information with me earlier about how he used drones to actually go and inspect ships, as well as looking at the propellers and whether or not the hulls of both were actually intact. And now he has changed and shifted his knowledge from drone technology underwater to now using drones within the agricultural field. And it's, I think, something that's very relevant in today's time. And so we're very excited to hear what he has to share with us today. So I'm going to hand over my screen to Jandré. And we look forward to hearing what he's got to say for us today. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Kirsty Lee. Thanks guys. Thanks for having me. With the topic being obviously about the drones and agricultural farming and so on, and how the drones can benefit the agricultural industry. Just to give you guys an idea of what we're going to be going through today. As Paxis, from Paxis's side, we're just going to give a little bit of a industry-specific technology-related specs and info. We're also going to go through the rundown of who we are. Paxis, give a little presentation on our history and who we are as a company, and then afterwards go into the bit more of the topic-related questions. So the questions such as the advantages versus disadvantages, the impact on farmers. Obviously, the future successes, comparison versus traditional methods of spraying, your conventional methods, for example, and then the challenges in our varying landscapes that we'll also just discuss. And then once we've done with this, the regulations, the job creation opportunities, how drones can actually assist in the industry, and how we've helped small-scale farmers with job development on their farms with these particular positions and so on in the agricultural stuff. And then mapping and using of GPS and land usages and stuff like that. We'll go through the specifics on that. I'm going to try and keep it short and sweet. I know everybody has things to do. So we'll get into the essentials of it. And then guys, please, like Kirsty Lee just typed there, any questions and so on afterwards. Let's have some Q&A. If you guys have any questions regarding that, we can do it. So just to give you some background on Paxis, I've got my screen here. I just want to share that to you guys. And share window. There we go. Can you guys see it?
Not yet. It is coming through. Yes, you're good to go.
Excellent. All right, cool. Just want to make sure it goes through, and if it actually starts moving. Right. So the Paxis history on our side is everything still full screen? Can you see everything?
Yes, you're good.
Okay. So our history, we started in 2016, established by KZN Sugar Farmers. What we mean by that is, how that started basically is the application of sugarcane has always been a bit of a struggle in South Africa. And that's where the first kind of opportunity in the market arose, was in sugarcane, because sugarcane is one of those crops that it takes forever to get ready to be harvested. And there are herbicides that were designed to kind of advance the harvesting period, advance the time that from planting till harvesting. And that's kind of where the opportunity came. So sugarcane had to always be sprayed with a herbicide via aerial application, as that's the only method to practically do it. And the standard of application was always very bad, done by light sport aircraft and helicopters and so on. We had a lot of problems with striping and ripening and so on, where we'll get into Nana but later. And then in 2017, we were the first DJI agricultural drone dealers in Africa. So Paxus is the first. We're the trendsetters when it comes to this stuff, because we've had our relationships with DJI since 2016. Then in 2017, we also initiated the CAA approval. Now, SACAA is our governing body of aviation in South Africa. So CAA is called the South African Civil Aviation. And we initiated the process for the first commercial drone spraying license in South Africa. So we were the first guys regarding this, and CAA actually appointed us as the first pest control operators on drones in South Africa. So we then initiated this whole process, and it took us 2 years to get that approved. So in 2019, the CAA eventually approved our commercial drone spraying operation. And we were now allowed to legally spray with drones on any crops that had a registration for aerial application. It's very, very important that people understand if a farmer has planted something, if he's planted a crop, it is very important to understand that he has to spray either for insecticides, fungicide, he has to sometimes spray leaf nutrients, all just to kind of help with the health of the crop, also for harvesting and so on. And sometimes it is to just boost the crop. So liquid fertilizers, that kind of stuff also always has to be applied. So it's important to understand that it's not just in the agricultural sector, you don't just plant a seed and hope for the best. There's constant monitoring on your crops. There is constant feedback that has to come from your agronomists, your specialists in the agricultural side, and your data analysis. So it's not just, like I said, planting a seed and hoping for the best. A farmer always has to check the condition of his crop. Is the soil still good? Aside from hoping for rain, there's a few things he needs to monitor. And sometimes during a season, for example, there might be cutworm or bollworm that come in, and obviously they are going to start destroying your crop, and you'll have to address that. Or you might get some funguses after very rainy seasons, and the sun then comes out. You have high humidity in areas, so there's always something that you have to control. With that said, the conventional methods of spraying were always with either tractors, having boom sprays, or having your spraying done with an aircraft. And then obviously 2016, the drones started coming in. Once we were legally approved, we could now spray under aerial application. So in South Africa, you normally have 3 different methods of spraying. It's ground application, which is with your tractor. You have foliar application, which uses knapsacks, which is your bit more manual labor side, which takes forever. And then you have aerial application. Now, drones in South Africa were registered in 2019 to legally spray under aerial application. That's very important to know, because in the beginning, it was very difficult and it was very new. Then 2022, our market adoption in the mega crops. So we eventually broke away from sugarcane after we've We've learned what there was to know about sugarcane, and we now, just for interest's sake, close to 85% of South Africa's sugarcane crops are now sprayed with drones. Just to put it out there, so that you guys are aware of that. 2022 market adoption in the mega crops. We moved away from KwaZulu-Natal area, more into the Free State area, the Northwest, obviously in Mpumalanga, and then the Limpopo area, because that is where your mega crops were planted. Just so that you guys are aware that your maize triangle in South Africa is between Bethlehem, which is in the Eastern Free State, Bothaville, which is in the Northwest, and Bloemfontein, which is obviously the western part of the Free State. So between those three areas, you have the biggest exports of maize in South Africa. Last year, we exported 18 million tons. South Africa as a country exported 18 million tons of maize, of which close to 8 million tons of that was just in that triangle. So we then kind of targeted those areas more into your row crops, maize, soybeans, sugar beans. And we've had a great success on that. To date, we've sold close to 1,000 drones in the market. In 2023, just to add to that, Civil Aviation has actually approved the use of multiple aircraft types, what that means is you can now, one operator can operate more than one drone. So DJI has actually changed the technology to have more than one drone actually fly on one single remote, which makes one operator now, much more valuable. All right. So to move on to that, what is our Paxis, what is our, mottos? What do we say? So we invest in the customer. So sales, training, and service. We're not going to go and dive into this into detail too much. Just going to go through it. So first of all is how do we get sales on these things? How do we put them out there in the market? And that is with, farmers' days. So just to go through this, farmers are traditional in nature and often resistant to change, which is very, very true. Farmers are if you can change the mind of a farmer, you can change the mind of anyone in South Africa. And that is very true. So, and there can be no greater change from traditional methods of application. In other words, tractors, aircraft, and knapsacks to drones. We've learned early on that these products cannot be effectively sold in a store. I mean, an agricultural drone is not something you buy off a shelf. You need to do your research, you need to do your homework, and the farmer actually has to see this thing work. So our sales methodology, therefore, is to impressively demonstrate the technology in real spraying scenarios on farms and highly experienced qualified sales staff who can educate and engage technically with farmers. So that's just our sales methodology, how that works. And that's why we tour the country throughout the whole country. We do demos with our drones, different crops, different areas, and just to show, that the drone does work on everything. So that has kind of changed the mind of the farmer to where we are today, where in the old days, 2019, 2020, farmers usually said, no, this isn't going to work. Now we get called from farmers saying, okay, listen, I've seen this work on that, but I want to know, does it work on this? Citrus, for example. So which is quite nice to know. Next is our training. So it's not about just making a sale to a client for us. It's all about training as well. Just so that you guys can see there, we actually have a comparison there of a trained operator versus a non-trained operator. Now, although this obviously looks very bad, no one will actually fully understand the weight of what has happened there better than the farmer, because some of those lines have been over ripened with double application. Some have not even been ripened. So that farmer has basically lost 50% on his yield on that one field where, so he can't afford having stuff like that happen. We put this in the slideshow to show the guys out there that, it's not about just buying the drone. The technology is very amazing, but the technology is capable of following a very bad plan, or if you fly it manually, this is the results you can get. on number B, on B. But if you look at A, for example, trained operator, full coverage spray has happened, and the farmer was very, very happy. Luckily, this was pre-arranged with the farmer, and he knew what we were going to do, and he actually sacrificed a 6-hectare block of sugarcane for us to get that photo. So that's a very expensive photo. So what we say with our training is Paxis provides free comprehensive training for every customer, optimizing spraying results and return on investment while reducing support burdens. With that said, our training incorporates 7 years of experience in highly technical sugarcane conditions, making Paxis trained pilots the best in the market. Quality training ensures quality spraying, results, reputation, and ultimately increased sale. Okay, so that away from training is our after-sales service. That is what differentiates from anyone else in South Africa selling agricultural drones. It's our service. It's our commitment to your farm success. We prioritize fast and effective customer service to minimize downtime and maximize your crop's potential. Something that is very important in the agricultural industry is anybody in the industry will know that you have to have a sense of urgency if you work in the agricultural sector. If a farmer is waiting a week or 2 weeks for you, you've lost him. He does not have time because the weather and the season does not stop. It doesn't, it keeps on moving. So especially, working with a farmer that plants 3, 4, 5,000 hectares, if that guy has to wait for you for 48 hours, we're not talking about 100 Rand that he's losing here. He could lose millions. So yeah, service is our big thing, where our turnaround time for having clients, maintenance has to happen on these drones. And let's say a farmer, for example, has a problem in field, a pump, for example, seizes, and that has to be replaced. That is where we jump in. We have mobile technicians. We get to you on your farm. We service you on the spot, and then from there on they move. So it's very important for the industry out there to understand that when you buy these drones, they're just like buying a car. They have to be serviced. Obviously, they do not have the mechanical, parts that normally aspirated engine, for example, has. But there are moving parts. There are parts that where they have to be replaced and they have to be inspected periodically, right? So these are branches in South Africa: Middelburg, Bethlehem, Ballito, and Paarl. So KZN, Free State, and Mpumalanga and Western Cape. We are the largest agricultural drone company in Africa with approximately 30 staff members across various departments, including admin, sales, training, service, and R&D. We operate our 4 branches in South Africa, and there they are. We also, additionally to that, have spare parts cabinets. But on to our first topic of discussion. So that's enough about our history and who we are. We have to now go into what we mentioned earlier, is the drone benefits. So if we look at what is listed here is the advantages and disadvantages of using crop spraying drones. Okay, and that is precise and consistent coverage is number one. The first advantage that you have over any form of conventional spraying is you have precise and consistent coverage. Now, this is coming from someone that was in the aviation industry. Obviously, the drones do not do the volumes that aircraft do in a day. So that's the first point that someone would say is, listen, the aircraft is much faster. Yeah, it is, but it's not nearly as accurate. So if your goal is to have your crops sprayed precisely and with a very, very good consistent coverage and penetration, then drones are the route to go. Here you can see, for example, sugarcane that has been sprayed with an aircraft. On our left field here, we can actually see these little green rows, they call it banks, that have been missed. All right. Here, where the white rows are, just to add to this, sugarcane is a very, very visual crop. Once you spray it ripener, you put the cane under stress, and I'll explain a bit more of sugarcane now. You put it under stress. This is to increase the sucrose levels in the crop, which means the plant becomes sweeter. The sweeter sugarcane is, the higher the yield. So these white areas, this is what you want. This green area has obviously been missed. Here at the end, obviously the aircraft cannot spray there just because of the fact that if it does, it can potentially harm the sugarcane here on the left. There on the far side, we have this field, which is, also, I mean, this whole area hasn't been sprayed. And to put this in context, I mean, that is an 11-meter margin that has not been sprayed all around this field. And I mean, that is not a consistent coverage. Here we have example of a drone that already sprayed and ripened this whole field. In our next slideshow, you'll actually see this is in KwaZulu-Natal. This was an actual spray that happened. This was while we were doing R&D 2018. This was an application by a light sport aircraft that actually sprayed the same hill that we then sprayed a year later. So here you can actually see the areas that haven't been ripened. And this is, I mean, yeah, look, the sugarcane has been ripened, but to put that in context, that is a 6-meter row that has been missed. Whereas the aircraft now does spray its 20 meters, for example, that is a 6 meter row that has absolutely been missed, which is, you know, the standard that the whole industry was used to. Now come, you know, the era where the drones now start moving into agricultural area. This is a full ripened area field in KwaZulu-Natal, which is a photo that we took that after spraying after 6 weeks. This is a photo we took. Here you can see a field, it's been sprayed, full coverage, nothing has been missed. We've left a little bit of a margin on the edge with the drones just to show that there is absolutely no damage to the sugarcane fields that were not you know, targeted. So this is to show how safe and how effective and accurate the drone is. Okay. On to our next slide. This is, for example, scorching. So the farmer has now asked a helicopter to spray here. Obviously, there was a little bit of wind, as you can see the drift lines here. But this is your typical application, right? These white lines are scorching lines, which means there was double application put down there. In effect, you have now killed the sugarcane instead of ripened it, which is not obviously ideal. Here we have a form of seed cane. Now, just to explain sugarcane you plant every 7 to 6 to 7 years. Now, sugarcane, what they do is before they harvest it, they actually cut off the sugarcane before they ripen it. They cut it and then they cut it into little pieces. And those little pieces are replanted and then that sugarcane grows for another X amount of years, 6, 7 years. Every 18 months, you have to harvest sugarcane. Traditionally, you harvest it every 2 years. But with the ripening application, that cuts off 6 months. So the guys would spray 6 to 8 weeks before harvest. They would spray a ripening agent, which is a mild dose of herbicide. They would ripen it, and then it puts the sugarcane under stress. Like I said, sucrose level then increase. And this is the industry we started in, as you know, there was an opportunity for the drones to come in because the guys were not getting the levels of sucrose they wanted. And the sweeter it is, you know, the more money the farmer makes. And yeah, so we've moved from sugarcane into different crops, but just, yeah, these are just little examples of where we came from. Right. Even coverage and superior canopy penetration. Now, these top ones, just to show you from left to right, this was the top of sugarcane, and we moved down 60 centimeters from the top of the first two are 60 centimeters at the very top of the sugarcane crop, then 60 centimeters down, another 60 and another 60. These were on the ground. So even on the ground, you still get penetration, you still get droplets. So that shows you, even with the drone flying at a certain speed, you actually still get coverage and penetration all the way down to the ground, which is what you want, because if you're spraying herbicides, whatever you want to control, be it weeds or insects, I mean, you don't just want penetration on the top of the crop. You want it covered all the way down so that your whole crop, so that the whole plant actually evenly absorbs whatever it is that you're spraying. All right. With that said, we also obviously have a lot of environmental benefits, reduced fuel and drift. Here you can see with just a little bit of a wind, you will have a little bit of drift. This is typically what it looks like with a drone, with the aircraft spraying. Here you will have obviously the drone spraying. It'll look exactly the same except with much less drift. Also, the drones work with batteries, so I mean you have much less of a fuel cost. Next, our ability to spot spray. Now, this is one of the more precise benefits that the drones have above your conventional methods. And that is with having a whole field map. Now, this is typically what the mapping would look like, with your rows predetermined and pre-planned. The green areas now being areas that have marked as stress areas. Now, here you can see on this little field, this is exactly this field. It was on a 28-degree slope. It's a citrus field, and here we actually identified stress areas. So these red areas were the areas to be sprayed, where we actually picked up scoutings of an insect called thrips. And this was an insecticide that was applied. And yeah, this was these were little areas that were mapped. The whole area was mapped and surveyed, and the stress was identified, and we here did what is called a prescription map. Right. So the drone flies the whole route as planned, but the green area, it puts on its nozzles, it switches its nozzles on, it actually applies chemical, switches it off again, and then switches it on again. And yeah, this is just one of the cool little advantages that you have that the drones can do in modern day technology. Next one is improved safety. Now, like I said, coming from someone that comes from the aviation industry, this is a little bit unfair, saying that, we have improved safety. Drones also do, they do crash, but when they do crash, there's no loss of life on board, which is something that is very, very important in the aviation industry. Obviously, with improved safety is you don't have the risk of driving into something with a tractor or having the tractor slide off a slope because the drone is not connected to the ground. I mean, you have the drone taking off in a safe area, flying over the crops, and it starts spraying. So if the drone were to put itself down, for example, it lands in the crops, there's absolutely no damage. There's no risk of damage. All right. Also, with all trained operators, before doing any flight, you have to do a risk assessment in the field, so that you take off in a designated safe area. Right. Our next advantage of conventional methods versus drones is reduced trampling. Okay. So what that means is increased yields. As you can see, you've got tractor lines in this field. This is a wheat field. Right. These are fields that we have now started spraying in the Western Cape. In the last 3 years, we've started moving into the Western Cape area as well. Just to give an idea of the layout of crops in South Africa, you have your summer crops, which are everything I've mentioned now, your maize, your soya beans, sunflowers, and sugar beans, dry beans, that kind of stuff. Then you've got your winter crops, which is wheat, barley, and canola. These are crops that grow during colder times. And the problem is in the summer areas, Free State, Northwest, and so on, it doesn't rain during the winter. The winter is very, very dry. So there's no point in planting anything unless you have pivots, which is overhead spraying. So water is a big thing. So when we go down to the winter areas, we do our winter crops, barley, wheat, and canola. Because in the Western Cape areas and parts of the Eastern Cape, it rains during winter. So then the whole shift of the agricultural sector moves down to that part of the country, and where we've seen a massive increase in yields just by eliminating rows in your crops. Just to put this in perspective, that little row there causes a 4 to 6% trampling on a total crop. Right. Now, 4 to 6%, if you do the math on that, on 1,000 hectares, you're paying off one drone. That's basically what it translates to. So, just by reducing lines in your fields, you can basically get yourself a drone by picking up money from the ground. Also, just to mention this, the more dense you plant crops, the more dense a farmer plants his crops, the higher the loss is that he has on his yield. Now with the drones, obviously, I mean, you can plant and you don't need to have any form of lines in your crops. I mean, you can just spray, which is one of the big advantages of drones versus tractors. All right. Our next one is reduced water consumption. All right. Now, when I mentioned in the beginning, you have ground application. That is with your tractors, your self-propelled tractors, which we call tall boys. You have boom sprayers, all of them propelled or pulled by some form of vehicle, which is usually a tractor. And they use traditionally anything from 200 to 280 liters of water per hectare. Now with the drones, new technology being designed, or the chemicals being designed for new technology, aerial application is at much less. That's 30 liters per hectare. That's almost 10% of the water that you're using in traditional methods. So your water is, I mean, you're reducing the consumption of water by close to 90%, which is amazing. If you have to look at the operational cost of moving around such masses of water, it's much less with the drone. With 1,000 liters, I mean, you do 30 hectares of application, which is much more practical. Where with a tractor and so on, I mean, we need tens of thousands of liters of water just to spray a field. All right. So reduce water consumption, one of the bigger ones. Now, this is the end of our presentation on what we have there, but this is not the end of the discussion. So all we mentioned there was, this is our typical presentation that we would give guys on what the drones have advantages of over conventional methods, right? But it goes much deeper than that. So the impact on farmers, if you have to look at the costs, purchasing, one topic that is not included in this, if we look at the impact on farmers, which is very important, we have to understand that a farmer has to pay off all these machines that he's spraying with, right? So whether he buys a tractor to spray with, whether he buys a self-propelled machine that sprays, whether he buys a boom sprayer, all of these machines, he either has to finance or he pays them cash. Now, these machines, I mean, getting a tractor that can pull, a spraying implement is at least close to 300,000-400,000 rand just for the tractor. That is a small tractor. That's not a big tractor. That's a 72 kilowatt. If you're looking at a big tractor, they go up to 3.5-4 million. Right? Getting a spraying implement, that's another 300,000-400,000 rand. So you in for 900,000 rand before you've even sprayed anything, right? And that's using it at much higher volumes of water, etc. Getting a drone package costs you about 350,000 to 400,000 rand, and I mean, you purchase a machine that can spray close to 100 hectares per day. So the impact on the farmer is much less financially. He doesn't have that financial stress. It's much cheaper, and you don't have the mechanical problems that comes with these big machines regarding maintenance-wise. So the impact on farmers absolutely much less regarding the cost. The farmer, between choosing a tractor and a spraying implement and purchasing a drone, he saves 50 to 60% already just by buying a drone and spraying for himself. Also, his running cost is much, much, much less. You're looking at about 50 to 60 rands a hectare that a farmer pays to run a drone per hectare. Running a tractor is anything between 200 and 300 rand a hectare with diesel and mechanical maintenance and issues and what's. Also, he has to replace, prop shafts and tractor wheels and tires and stuff like that. So that's the impact on farmers. Our next topic is our future successes. Where is this going? So within the last 8 years, drones have basically developed from 8 liters, drones that could only carry 8 liters, to having our T40s and T50s, which is, I'm just going to go back to our second slide there, this drone here, which is our T40. This is where we were at last year. This year, we've got our T50s, which is a drone that can take up 50 kilograms of fertilizer. It takes 40 liters of chemicals. Our full payload with the drone, what the drone weighs with full payload is about 100 kilos while it's flying. So our next drones that are being launched is the T100, the Agras, DJI Agras T100. That is available end of November, December, which is a drone that is going to be taking 100 kilograms of fertilizer and 80 liters of chemical, which means it is doubling in size of the flagship drone that is currently the best-selling and best-performing drone in South Africa, is doubling in size in 7 months, which is, I mean, that's 7 to 8 months. That's crazy. If you had to look at what that is going to be doing for farmers, in just the question of the T50 was launched in April last year, just to put that into perspective, that's a year and what, a year and 7 months, year and 8 months, double the size has been developed and is going to be available for farmers. So the trajectory is that every year and a half, new drones are being developed, new drones are being made out into the industry, or made available for the industry, and every year and a half, new and better machines are out there in the industry doing not just double the hectares or double the coverage rate, but they're also doing double the volumes, double the speeds, which means accuracy and effectiveness is also going to start increasing the bigger the drones are. And we already at a 95% accuracy. All right, I've got a question here. Do farmers have to license the? Just want to get to that message. Do farmers? Do farmers have to have licenses to pilot the drones? Are there restrictions in terms of flight paths? Do farmers have to get permission from CIA to fly at any time? Okay, so yes, the drone license requirement in South Africa currently says farmers do have to get licenses for these big drones, not for the smaller drones. Are there restrictions in terms of flight paths? Yes, only with controlled airspaces. For example, Rand Airport, Grand Central, Vonnegut Airport, King Shaka, OR Tambo, that kind of stuff. Controlled airspaces, yes, they are what is called geozones. But, you can unlock those zones. And then if you have a license, that pilot will know how to communicate with those controlled airspaces and towers. Last question is, do farmers have to get permission from CIA to fly at any time? No. You only need to get permission from CIA and from the respective control zones if you are flying in a controlled airspace. So that's the only time you need CIA's permission. All right. The previous question, this technology is excellent and helps the farmers optimize their crop yield. Does Paxis do the spraying, or are you creating new jobs by training and upskilling already employed staff? Okay. So just to add to this, Paxis does have a 6 months pilots development program that we do offer. Whereas, a candidate enrolls for this course, it's a 6 month full-time course with accommodation included, where he does a full zero to hero course. Basically, you do the whole pilots development program. So you do your drone pilot's license, you do the pest control operating certificate, you do your safety management course, you do the aviation security. So we do offer that course, but that is a completely different course than what we do if someone purchases a drone. So if you as a farmer come to me and you purchase a drone from us to spray for yourself, that training is 4 days. However, the pilot's development program is 6 months. And if you want to go do a drone pilot's license, of which the drone pilot's license is part of the pilot's development program, that you do at any drone flight school in South Africa. There are a bunch of them. We use Cranfield. That drone pilot's license takes about 4 weeks for a individual to get a drone pilot's license. The 6 months is for much more than that. So you'll be doing 6 months of training, in-field experience in the fields with sugarcane and macadamias and maize and so on. All right. Do you have to program the drone to fly each field individual? Yes, we'll get to all of that now. So the next topic is, let me just get this open here. Oh yeah, future successes, as we were talking about bigger drones coming in. Yes, we have a question here. Oh, your mic is muted.
How are you?
Hi, fine, thanks, new man.
I'm fine. You speaking to Ramadumeja Zikali.
Yes.
I'm just interested in the training that you are talking about for 6 months. That the full training is for 6 months.
Okay, so that
But
is
you don't
full
talk,
training.
you don't talk about any cost that maybe will be affiliated or anything.
Okay. Yeah. So look, with the third last topic that we're going to be discussing is the regulations surrounding drone use in agriculture, and with that, I will list out the cost of number one, the drone pilot's license, and the course that we offer, which is the pilot's development program. I will also list that for you guys. Just to chat about that, but that is 2 more topics, then we'll be there. All right.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. So comparison with traditional spraying methods, we've been through that now. The drones are much cheaper, they're more effective, and they are also, they are the way forward. I mean, the drones are being developed much faster than it's currently the fastest growing industry outside of agriculture. Drones are the fastest growing industry globally. The only industry that is kind of basically in comparison to it is or even to it is space exploration, obviously, which is years ahead of drones. But the 2 industries are the 2 fastest developing industries currently in the tech set. So yeah, challenges in varying landscapes. Okay, so now let's get into that quickly, then we will go into the regulation side of it. So challenges in varying landscapes, mountainous versus flat terrains. So the drone can do both of them. Not all equipment, ground equipment, like your tractors and so on, can spray mountainous areas. That's where your drones can do it. So your aircraft were also very limited on mountainous terrains, as you saw on this slide here. Let me just get back to this. As you saw here, this is a 35-degree slope that the drone has sprayed. So mountainous terrains, not a problem. Here you can see there is a bit of a slope here, probably about a 10-degree slope, 8 to 10-degree slope on this area. And the aircraft hasn't evenly sprayed in this area, where the drone, did in a 35-degree slope, did much better. Okay, then moving on to regulations surrounding drone use in agriculture. Okay, now the drone regulation in South Africa says this drone is above 7 kilograms, the agricultural drone specifically. There are 2 areas regarding regulation. So civil aviation says you can purchase a drone and you can fly a drone for yourself. I'm talking about your normal camera drones. You can fly these drones on any land or area that you have landowner's permission for. All right, so I can go to an area. Yes, we have a hand being raised here. Bridget? Bridget, you raised your hand. All right, I think we'll just go on. If you have any questions, just type it out here. Regarding the regulations, where was I now? So if you have landowner's permission of the area that you are flying a drone, you are legally allowed to fly it without having any form of license, right? The law differentiates recreational use of drones by 2 ways. Number one, commercial gain. So any commercial gain, you have to be registered as a pilot and as an entity with civil aviation. All right, so it's basically you need a drone pilot's license, and PAXIS, for example, is registered with CAA as an entity. We call that an ROC. Right. Then the next level is, if you are flying drones above 7 kilograms, you have to have a drone pilot's license. Right. So just to add to that, the drone pilot's license takes 4 weeks. That is for the individual operating a drone. Any drone in South Africa, you need 4 weeks to do a drone pilot's license. It is called an RPC, a remote pilot certificate. And you will be doing a form of theory exams. You'll be doing some radio work. You're doing medical examination, and between all of this, you'll also do some practical. Once everything is done, you'll do an evaluation with a designated flight examiner, and then the drone license is issued. All right. That is regarding the regulation side of it. So just to summarize that, any drone above 7 kilograms, you need a license for, number one. Number two, if it is for any commercial gain or for any form of commercial use work, for example, this commercial spraying here, this would be classified as certified as commercial gain work, because we are providing a service. Here, for example, you would need a license, and you would need to be registered. All these operations were done with registered pilots, trained pilots, individuals by PAXIS, and also using DJI agriculture drones. Right. Job creation and skill development in rural areas. So PAXIS was actually part of the small scale growing development package with SASRI. This is actually this is a video that is actually on YouTube, where we actually, took part with SASRI, took hands with SASRI for the small scale growers, and kind of just to help with job creation in the smaller areas where sugarcane farmers, were very dependent on the remote areas that they were. Now, with having drones in that area, skills development, first of all, is something that has now being opened up in that area, number one. Number two, job development in the system of the drone doesn't fly itself. You need pilots, you need ground operators, you need ground crew, you need people mixing your chemicals, trained individuals. So yeah, definitely agriculture, using drones in the agricultural sector absolutely promotes job creation and skill development in rural areas, as these drones don't take off by themselves. All right, and then the last point is the mapping land use. So what we would do beforehand is we would actually plot out this whole field as it is standing here. We would actually take our satellite image and we would plot out this whole area, have GPS boundary routes, just want to go to where the spot spraying was, and the drone will actually create its routes as mentioned here, right? And then you can actually decide how high, how fast, what the angle is of the rows you want to spray, and you can actually change the application rate, the speed, the droplet size. All of these things are absolutely modular. That's what's one of the other advantages that the drones have is, everything is modular, everything is just a setting away. Whereas with a tractor, you have to physically remove the nozzles. The drone works with the centrifugal nozzle. Droplets you click on a button and the droplet sizes change. So yeah, that's basically all the advantages that we have. I think we've covered all our topics. I think let's get into the questions and answers from your side. If you guys have any questions, please go ahead. Let's just answer these previous questions. I see drone training takes 4 weeks. Yes, that is true. Drone training does take 4 weeks. That is for the drone pilot's license. When I type that here, that is called the RPC. If I say it takes 4 weeks, that is for the average. That is the average time it takes. It can take up to 6 weeks. It can go up to 8 weeks, all dependent on the candidate. Remote pilot certificates. Cool. There it is, RPC remote pilot certificate. Then, is the 7 kilograms of weight that the machine itself? I assume earlier you mentioned that the drone could carry 50 kgs of fertilizer and 8 liters of water. The figures combined don't seem to add up. Drone carrying more than its natural weight. No. So as I mentioned before, the 50 kilograms is fertilizer. It can carry a maximum capacity payload of 50 kilograms for fertilizer. It can also, depending on what you want to do, if you want to spray chemicals, you can remove the fertilizer tank and you can put in a chemical tank. That is then fertilizer. That is then 40 liters of chemical. All right. We have evolved from drones that initially could only take 8 liters of water. That is where the 8 liters of water come from. All right. So we've evolved from drones that could only take a maximum capacity of 8 liters. Then eventually grew into 10 liters, 20 liters maximum, 30 liters, and now currently where we are at 50 kilograms. So 50 kilograms, the drone weighs about 40 kgs. With a battery, it's about 40 to 45 kilograms. Right. And yeah, that's basically just to add up. So if you take about 45 kgs what the drone weighs with the 50 kilograms of fertilizer, you're close to 100 kgs that the drone weighs. It's about 95 to 100 kgs. All right. Then I'm a mid-sized dairy farmer with some maize fields. How can I best utilize these drones to aid my business? All right, so dairy farm, maize farm, and if the guys, usually the dairy farms are all pasture farmers. The drones can do seeding, so they seed on lucerne, teff, ryegrass, your rye itself. The guys can actually do spreading, so they spread fertilizer with the drones, which obviously, that can aid in your business massively, whereas you don't have to plant with a tractor having a much more or much higher inset cost with a tractor. If you have to pull a planter and put in the seeds and actually plant your seeds into the soil and then actually, get that tilled over again, that's a much more expensive method of planting. With a drone, you throw in the seeds, we calibrate how many kilogram per hectare you want to spread with the seed. And the spread actually goes up to 12 meters width. So we can spread seeds with the drone up to 12 meters wide at an even coverage for pasture farmers, for intercropping. So yeah, absolutely. The drone will aid in the even on a dairy farm. So if you go into the maize side of it, for example, your herbicide applications, you will have to do insecticide, you will have to do leaf nutrients. You can take away, the drone can completely substitute, your conventional method of spraying. So you can take away the tractor. You don't have to put in another tractor in your field ever again. Use the drone. It can do all your seeding, all your fertilizer, and all your spraying applications. All right. Here I have another email from Neo. Sorry, I joined late. Will the presentation be shared? Can you also share your contact details in case one is planning to attend one of your courses at a later stage? Of course, yeah. I will send everything to Kirsty Lee. Okay, then Kirsty Lee asked here, how much does it cost to get your license? All right, so I'm going to type that out here as well. So RPC is about 26 to 28,000 Rand. I'm just going to write that here, 28,000 Rand. We also have an information package on our pilot development program, which I will share to Kirsty. Kirsty Lee, she can just share that with you guys. So that's for the RPC. All right. Our drone pilots development program, we call that the PDP. Just going to write that here, pilots development program. Equals about 100, it's close to 100,000 Rand. It's 90, I think it's 95. It's about 95,000 Rand. Remember, this includes now the drone pilot's license. It includes the pilot's development license as well. Your PCO, sorry, your pest control. So it's your drone pilot's license, your pest control operating certificate, your aviation security license, and with 6 months accommodation included, along with your in-field practical knowledge and technical knowledge. Right. So that is the PDP. So we have another question here. Okay, here is the YouTube link for the small scale farmer you spoke about earlier. I will send all these videos to Kirsty Lee via email. How much does it cost to get your license? Yeah, that has been answered. What is the reason behind holding a license for the 7 kilogram drone? Ask CAA. That's the reason they regulate these things from CAA. Look, the agricultural drones are very over-regulated, but the main reason for safety from CAA side was they measure all drones in kilojoules or in joules. What I mean by that is the actual mass of the drone. So they say if this drone was at 10 meters, for example, and it were to fall out of the sky onto a vehicle or onto someone, a smaller drone would obviously have much less joules on the impact than a higher drone, than a bigger drone would have. So that's one of the things that they regulated at. And they've also said, obviously, because these drones are so big, a mid-air collision between an aircraft and a drone would be, I mean, that would be catastrophic, and it could potentially harm, it could potentially have risk of loss of life for the pilot on board the aircraft. So that is why they've said, the risk of safety, because these things are so big, they're going to regulate them. They have over-regulated them a bit, in our opinion, in the agricultural sector. However, they make the rules. We have to abide by them, and it's all in the interest of safety. All right, and then Ntambo at mweb.co.za for presentation and other. Okay, yes, we'll send all the. I will send the presentation to Kirsty Lee along with the video of the small scale growers, of what PAXIS has helped with and how it has aided the guys in the rural communities and rural areas. All right, any other questions?
Hi, Andre. There's one more there from Sam.
Yes. Oh, sorry, I didn't see that. Okay, Samantha Jones. Are there job opportunities for PPL with the PDP who hires them? Okay, so people with the PDP, individual farmers or company is the recommendation, field or post-matric without tertiary study at university. Okay, so this is for people that want to go into the agricultural sector that haven't necessarily gone to university to study, to become an agronomist or, an agricultural specialist in some form or field. These are for, we've seen that a lot of youngsters that want to get into the agricultural sector, but they're more of a practical, they're better with their hands working, a bit more practical side of things. We've seen a lot of those candidates come through the pilot development program. Also, to answer that question, who hires them? Absolutely, farmers and drone companies. Remember, this is an industry that is only 8 years old. It is very much still on the upward incline of job opportunities. I mean, PAXIS gets probably monthly 3 to 4 calls a month of asking, listen, do you guys have pilot operators, to come fly our drones? We've purchased a drone from PAXIS, but we want an operator. The farmer can't necessarily always spray himself. So, yeah, definitely, absolutely. The guys do get work. If you have experience with the agricultural drones, and you have your own drone or have flown with these agricultural drones for a period, and you know how to repair them and so on, and you have a drone pilot's license, you will very easily get work. It's definitely, there's not enough pilots, drone agricultural specialized pilots with some practical experience. There's definitely not enough of them in the country. We have a massive shortage of that. All right. Then thank you for your time. All right, for all the material. Yes, please tell us, geography teachers. There's teachers in the room that you did geography to matric. Please tell us. Sorry, I'm not understanding the question. Please tell us, geography teachers in the room, that you did geography to matric. No, unfortunately, I didn't. I had maths. I had physical sciences, physics and so on. I had music and I had architectural design. Yeah, that's the subjects that I had. Unfortunately, I didn't have geography. I had that until grade 9. And grade 10, I took different subjects. All right, then where does the training take place? Okay, so our pilots development program, that happens in Ballito. However, we have good relationships with all the drone pilot schools in South Africa. There are drone pilot flight schools in Sandton, Centurion. There are guys in Pretoria. There are guys in Nelspruit. There are guys down in Durban. There are flight schools in Cape Town. So all over the country, you can go do your drone pilot's license at all the major cities in South Africa. All right. Then, thank you. Nice to know it's an opportunity for our students. 8 years for agri use or in general. So no, 8 years for the agricultural drones. Look, drones have been in South Africa much longer than 8 years. It's just the agricultural application drones are only 8 years old now. So that's how old the agricultural, commercial spray industry is. And I mean, we started it in South Africa. We were the first guys. The director of PAXIS, Tim Wise, the CEO, he was the very, very, very first registered aerial applicator with a drone in South Africa. So that's how old the industry is, about 8 years. Started in 2016. All right, and then, see, Kirsty, you typed here, thank you for attending today's session. Please, can you click on the link and complete the survey? This really assists us to plan the sessions moving. Okay, cool.
Thank you so much. I think it's been a wonderful presentation here, and I really hope everybody has learned something new about the wonderful world of farming, and especially with practical applications from drones. And I learned so much with regards to having an understanding now of how to get your licensing and the value of what drones can offer for farmers today. So just to everybody, thank you for joining us. I am going to take this opportunity now to say that I will send all of the information from Jandre as well as the company to everybody who is online, so that if you are interested or if you know somebody that could use their services who will perhaps need more information, you can contact him. But before we end today's wonderful webinar, this is just a reminder to renew your SACTA membership for the 2025 year, as well as the fact that the deadline for PrepShare is this week, Friday. So remember that PrepShare is something that cannot be bought. If you share your information, your PowerPoints, your tasks, or any kind of assessments, that you also have the benefit of using other people's resources as well over there. And then lastly, just remember that you can also download maps. And I see that Bridget has raised her hand again. Bridget, I don't know, do you want to add any information here?
No, thanks, Kirsty. Sorry, I'm in transit. If I raise my hand, that was a mistake. Let me put it down. Apologies. But just to emphasize, please, that people do need to be a SACTA member to access the map. Thanks, Kirsty.
It's a pleasure, Bridget. So our next webinar for next month is very, very exciting. We have got the South African National Space Service coming through, and we will send more information with regards to their webinar. But just lastly, a huge thank you to Jandre and a round of applause for you, and to everybody online. I hope you have a wonderful day, and hopefully this rain either might continue. But yes, just enjoy, and just thank you so much, Jandre.